Good morning, everyone. Thank you for braving the paralyzing rain that has disrupted traffic and deterred many from turning up over here. First of all, so let me welcome you very warmly, first of all, from the land of majestic mountains, magnificent forests, and mighty rivers, a land which is the spiritual home of tens of millions, and now asserting itself on the economic map of India, the Honorable Chief Minister of the state of Uttarakhand, Shri Trivendra Singh Rawat ji. A very warm welcome to you. Under your leadership, we are seeing Uttarakhand take great strides in the economic, social, and political spheres. From the land of the pious, the brave, and the industrious, the granary of India, with his eyes now firmly fixed to the future, we warmly welcome the Minister of Finance of the state of Punjab, Mr. Manpreet Singh Badal, and the Minister of IT and Public Works, bridging the infrastructure of the past and the infrastructure of the future, Mr. Vijay Indra Singla. A very warm welcome to both of you. And from the most populous state of India, a state that could have been the fifth or the sixth largest country in the world were it to be an independent state, a state that has hosted many chapters and symbols of India's history that has shaped the destiny of our nation, and now a center of rising tide of hope and energy under the new leadership, holding the key to the fortunes of India. Very delighted to welcome Mr. Satish Mahana, Honorable Minister of Industry from the state of Uttar Pradesh. A very warm welcome to you as well. To the CII delegation, 18 members strong, led ably by Mr. Sajid Jain and Mr. Samir Gupta, the new face of the new Business India. A very warm welcome to all of you. And with coming here at a very short notice, to all those who are present here, you are at the beginning of a new journey in the sense of greater attention in Singapore to the northern region of India. You've just heard that the last quarter, India recorded a growth of 8.2% in GDP. And now that compares, this is the first quarter of 2018-19. Exactly a year ago, the growth was 5.6% in that quarter. The gross value added in the manufacturing sector in the last quarter was 13.5% increase, which compares dramatically with the minus 1.8% in the first quarter of 17-18, which undoubtedly was due to both principally due to demonetization, but it just shows how the economy has quickly regained its momentum. The agriculture sector was 3.6% growth rate in the first quarter of the last fiscal, and in this fiscal it has grown at 5.3%. And the exports in 2017-18 was the highest growth rate in 6 years. So the public spending remains high, consumption demand remains high, so there is a great surge now in the growth momentum. But we all know that in some sense the numbers can be fickle, and that we can see the cycles that can be in short and medium term go up and down. But if we look at both the metrics of number and the underlying determinants of demography, of governance, of policies, of processes, of resources and reforms, of the scale of ambition and the speed of implementation, all those parameters are converging to ensure that India sustains high rates of growth above 7.5% for a long, long time to come, which means that in the course of the next 10 years, we will go from being a $2.6 trillion economy to a $5.2 or $5.5 trillion economy, and from that in the next 10 years to a $10 trillion economy, or perhaps more, if we compound that rate of growth. And international trade, if you take at 40% of the GDP, will be about $2 trillion in the course of the next 5 years. But underlying all these changes are some very fundamental transformations that are taking place. You've heard about economic reforms. We have repealed 1,200 laws. We have instituted 7,100 steps to make it easy to do business in India. Infrastructure is no longer an ambition written in sand. The speed of implementation of infrastructure is at the rate of about 300 kilometers per day, for example, of highways, national highways. The speed at which the rail lines are being doubled is also increased by double. We are investing $150 billion in rail infrastructure in the course of 5 years. We have 111 new waterways. We have 18 new airports, greenfield airports coming up. We have 5 new ports which are coming up. And we're building affordable housing to the tune of 50 million over the next 5 years. So that's the scale of transformation in the infrastructure. We have seen for the first time a great push towards urbanization, as millions and hundreds of millions of Indians now migrate to the cities, from affordable homes to smart cities to urban solutions of solid waste management and water recycling to new cities, new townships that are coming up across the country. We're seeing a major thrust in investments in human resources, and particularly in skills development and higher education. We see an unprecedented emphasis on agriculture, the kind we haven't seen since the Green Revolution of the 1960s. In the financial sector, we are seeing a new phenomenon. Perhaps one of the most understated reforms is the financial resolution through the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, where already 4,000 cases for the resolution of stressed assets have been registered. 1,000 cases are already being dealt with. And we are therefore dealing with the stressed assets of banks and of companies in a manner that does not tax the ordinary taxpayer and does not reward the profligacy of the past and does not put a burden on the fiscal challenges for the government. And together with this, we see a digital revolution sweeping across India that has touched the lives of more than a billion people in less than 3 years. Today, 99% of Indians have a bank account. It isn't just an economic fact, it is also a source of empowerment, of dignity, and of opportunity. Because we are linking pension and insurance, we are linking delivery of direct benefit transfers. $30 billion have been deposited into the accounts of the beneficiaries through the unique identity, the telephone, and the bank accounts. So this is the scale of digitization, where 250,000 village councils are being connected by broadband. 150,000 have already been touched by it. And then, of course, the big change. That is, we no longer pursue growth for growth's sake, but for transforming the lives of the people. And across the country, there is a great mission to make our environment cleaner and more sustainable, to provide a roof over everyone's head, to provide access to water and sanitation to all, power within the reach of every household, education for all. This is the transformation that is taking place, and it is creating its own demand for every kind of resources. But all these changes would not have been possible but for 2 reasons. One is the new energy and enterprise that is driving the young India. 800 million Indians, 65% of the population under the age of 35. Impatient for change, eager to pursue it, and confident of achieving it. And that is also changing the dynamics of politics in India and politics and governance. It is not just changing it at the center, but it is revolutionizing the way the state governments are working today. There is now a new energy of competitive and cooperative federalism in India that is unleashing the potential of all the states. It is becoming more responsive, more business-friendly, more transparent, more objective governance. Today, it is no longer necessary for industry to be chasing governments. The governments are chasing industry and business, creating opportunities for people, for jobs, for employment, for raising the quality of life, because that is also driving politics. And just as well, because no matter what the center does, India's progress ultimately depends on what the states do. The gateway to India may be Delhi and Mumbai, but the key to the fortunes lie in the state capitals. And Singapore has understood that well. Because today, when we see the states competing with each other, we realize we are judging them on 370 parameters. Each state knows that they are being seen by the world on 370 parameters of governance. And states are making rapid strides. If you just see the data from 2015 to 2017, you will see how much change that is taking place in all the states of India. And in the context of India-Singapore partnership, which is really one of the most important partnerships for both countries, statistics speak for themselves. We are for India, Singapore is the leading source of investment. Singapore is also the leading destination for investment. We are each other's one of the largest trading partners. 80% of India's external bonds are listed on Singapore Stock Exchange. More than 65% of rupee-denominated bonds are listed here. Singapore companies are participating in every area of India's development priority, from cities and skills to infrastructure. But the biggest difference that they have with other countries is that they have focused a lot on the state governments, working with states. Now, you've all heard of iconic stories of Singapore's cooperation with southern states, with western states, and sometimes to an extent with northeast. But we are beginning a new journey today, because much of India is also driven by the north. 31% of the geography, 31% of the population, 30% of the GDP comes from India's north. You think of it beyond numbers, extremely high level of connectivity, infrastructure, urbanization, education, skills. Each of those states are very closely connected to the National Capital Region, which anchors about 45 million urban population of very high income levels. So this is an area of great opportunity. And we have here 3 states, each of which present very high level of opportunities and potential. We all know about Punjab's great industrial qualities. None of us has ever held a cricket bat or played soccer without touching on something that's made in Punjab, or worn a sports shirt, or worn a woolen dress which has not been made in Punjab. Punjab is a state which not only fought for independence, but gave us freedom from hunger as well. And today, it is a center of 5 rapidly growing and wonderful cities, from Chandigarh to Ludhiana, Amritsar to Patiala and Jalandhar. They are also centers of world-class education, high levels of skills, and with policies that are now increasingly driving investments. You have the state of Uttar Pradesh, which, as I've said, has everything from, but if you think of Uttar Pradesh and its diversity, it almost seems like you're talking about all of India. You start from the west, whereas Noida and the greater Noida was much part of the Delhi National Capital Region, centers of education, of IT, of industry, of everything you can imagine. You have Varanasi, you have Aligarh, you have Dadri, Lucknow. They're centers that are showing great potential. You have Uttarakhand, a state that gives you every possibility of tourism, from spiritual to the sport. It has the best biodiversity you can imagine, and every conceivable concept of food processing, of agriculture, of agroeconomics is possible there with extremely high value addition. To many who think of it as a mountainous state will be surprised that it is also a rapidly industrializing state, because it has 15 industrial states and a great center of automotive manufacturing today. It's got a future in wellness and health, which is what is driving healthcare industry today. And there are many, many more opportunities, but each of them is also a center for new solutions in urban development, each of those 3 states, in skills, in clean water, in cleaning up our rivers and lakes. And they align very closely with Singapore's areas of competence and strengths, which is why I have seen a great interest here. Yesterday, they had meetings with 3 top ministers over here, and we could see, despite the very short notice at which this event was put together, a great deal of interest. Because in opening this north to Singapore and to Southeast Asia, we are opening a completely new avenue for deeper partnership and deeper cooperation between India and Singapore. So ladies and gentlemen, participate in this event with great interest because you are now looking at the doorstep of great opportunities in India's dynamic north. Thank you very much.